All right, it's time to talk basketball. The NBA Finals are on, and we're here to talk about it and more. I'm Jose Salviati, editor of thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Purciello, longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. And this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 15 minutes of NBA random thoughts online. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We're glad you found us. This podcast was born out of the content of Steve's 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts articles. He publishes them weekly. Steve and I have exactly 15 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today, we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article, where he shares his thoughts as the NBA playoffs continue in the 2024-25 NBA season, as the NBA Finals are set and off to a crazy start. And we'll talk about game one, I'm sure. But before we get started, I just want to call out again that, forgive me, the last couple of weeks I didn't do this, but one of our very own creators, John Camacho, has written a book. Pretty cool. It's available now on Amazon. You can just search for Sports Chaos. You'll find it. It explores the reasons behind expert business, legal and moral decisions, with a blurb on the Luka Doncic trade, which in my mind's eye is the epitome of sports chaos. So make sure you Google or check on Amazon for Sports Chaos and give it a read. It's pretty cool. All right, Steve, are you ready to talk basketball?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, I'm going to start the timer now. All right. So let's talk a little bit about game one. You said this week that the Pacers, after that game one, which was incredible, might be a team of destiny. If I'm a Pacers fan, that both excites me and terrifies, because you don't know what could that be the kiss of death. So playing devil's advocate, all right? Didn't the Pacers just get lucky in game one? They were getting beat, right? They were 99% of that game was all the Thunder. And then the balls just stopped going in for that team, and Pacers got lucky with the final shot. Devil's advocating it. Did they just get lucky?
Sometimes in sports, luck is more important than anything else. I'm going to go not many people are my age that are listening, but I'm going to go back to baseball in 1969. There was a Met team that the year before might have won 70 games. They got on a roll and they won the whole thing. And they beat the Orioles in 5, I believe, in the World Series. The Orioles had people like Frank Robinson, who's a Hall of Famer, Brooks Robinson, another Hall of Famer, pitchers McNally and Palmer, Hall of Famer, just littered with great players, the Orioles. The Mets went out and beat them in the World Series in 5 after coming from behind the Cubs during the regular season to win the league championship. But they also beat the Cincinnati Reds. That's when Pete Rose had a fight with Bud Harrelson. But to win that. Now, if you looked at that Met team, Seaver was there, and he's a Hall of Famer, but not many others. I don't think there was another Hall of Famer on that team. And it just Tommy Agee and guys like that just played miraculously great baseball. Sometimes in sports, teams get on a roll, and it's unexplainable, is my point. Now, Oklahoma City played terribly. They shot poorly. They really didn't have a good game. And the ironic thing is, 2 weeks ago, I wrote about the turnovers and about less turnovers wins. Oklahoma City had 18 less turnovers. How do you figure this? You begin to think something's crazy here. And is it like a destiny type situation? That's what led me to write about that, because again, I think Oklahoma City's a better team. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, it's weird because that has always been the thing in the NBA. I think with a 7-game series, the better team is going to win. You got one game. It's not always the best team that wins. Think of Villanova, Georgetown, right? When it's a one-off, anything can happen. But in a 7-game series, the best team is supposed to win. So I don't know, man. I just thinking back at that game, it was so wild. And one other thing about the turnovers, 19 turnovers they had in the first half. It was, I think, 6 in the second. So the Pacers figured it out, right? They figured out how to protect the ball, and they did a much better job. Or either that or the Thunder slowed down. I got to give credit to the Pacers. But I don't know, man. Can they keep doing this? You can't live on the edge and expect that kind of result every single time. You just can't.
And the other thing was, Oklahoma City didn't score off of. Really, a team scores off, and that didn't happen. There's so many little factors. They didn't shoot real well. Nothing really went well. And they were right there. And you're right. And by the way, I mentioned about the Mets. I'll give you the converse is what, about 20 years ago when Philadelphia with Iverson won the first game in the finals against the Lakers. And everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on here? The Lakers went back and they stormed and beat them in 4 straight after that. Again, anything's on the table, but this is crazy. Going back, I thought the Knicks were better than the Pacers. I thought Cleveland was
wild.
yes,
Right. Isn't
You
that
know,
wild? Yeah.
that would be a pretty even series. So
No,
who
it's
knows?
great. The way this is played out is crazy. In 1991, the Lakers took, and Magic Johnson's kind of final hurrah. He took game 1 against the Michael Jordan's Bulls. And then the Bulls just said, forget this. They won the next 4. It matters, of course, but you got to win 4.
Right.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Tyrese Halliburton because we've talked about him before. Is he a superstar? Is he a really good player? Right now, I think we settled on he's a good player. He's not yet a superstar because he got to do it consistently. And even in game 1, it'll be forever remembered as his shot, but he did not have a great game overall. But something very interesting about Tyrese Halliburton, you called out in your article, he's had 4 game-tying or game-winning shots in the final 5 seconds, including overtime. In these playoffs, he's had 5 in his career. That's mind-boggling. So that isn't luck. Clearly, he's a clutch player. When the game's on the line, you want the ball in his hands. So has this changed your opinion? Has he gone from good to superstar, or is he still in the good, great category?
He's a very good player. But what I'll say to you is when he gets down, better yet, the clutch gene. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, right.
I think he's a very good player. And I think also he's got, you wish a lot of people have, is the ability when it counts to come up big. And that's, Larry Bird had that. That's not something a lot of people walk around with. And he's got that. I will say, and I don't want the Jalen Brunson fans getting all upset, but I would say he's the most clutch player in the league. And just look at the results in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But that's the best way.
Yeah, if you could do that over, right, and count the playoffs, I don't think there's any doubt Tyrese Halliburton would win that award. I think there's any doubt. But it's a regular season award. It's like Jalen Brunson earned it. But yeah, if you take into account what he's done in the playoffs, come on. Clutch player of the year, Tyrese Halliburton.
The reason I wouldn't
doubt.
say he's the best, like a superstar, go back to the 4th quarter of that game before that shot.
Yeah.
And Andrew Nemhard was the guy that carried them. And my mind was working because in the first half, Oklahoma's defense was so good that I was thinking, one way they're going to beat them is throw the ball to Siakam in the post and eliminate a lot of passing and dribble drives. They didn't do that, but that because I just figured anytime you went into the paint with the ball, they were taking it away. And they were playing the passing lanes very well. But in the second half, they figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I watched the first half and I thought there is no way. This continues. There's no way that Indiana Pacers have a chance. This defense is unbelievable. It was just world class. They figured it out. So anyway, it's going to be fun. Listen, as basketball fans, we love watching 2 great teams battle it out. The Cinderella against the team that won 60 plus games. You and I were loving this. But overall, this was a dud. And you wrote about this, right? You wrote about the possible buyer's remorse on the part of ABC, ESPN, the $2.6 billion per year. It's like, hey, for the TV rights, game 1, the least watched since 1988 outside of the COVID years. It's not because this was bad basketball. This was one of the best game 1s in NBA history. I don't know. I haven't watched them all, but that was a phenomenal game against 2 great teams. But it's 2 small market teams. And now we've got this parity, collective bargaining agreement. You wrote about it. So is this parity hurting the NBA overall?
I don't think they intended to see 2 teams that are small market being in the finals.
Yeah.
But I think the second apron is forcing teams to trade people. And here's the shame of it. If you've drafted 2 great players and they're combined making 70% of the cap, you're going to probably be in above the second apron. And the shame of it is if you drafted them, you're going to probably have to make a decision on one of them. When I say that, I'm thinking Boston Celtics with down the road, maybe not this year, but Jaylen Brown down the road is going to be gone. So wait, because you drafted, got a player, you have to trade. So as a fan, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
And or if you have a very good team and your team now is over the second apron, you're restricted. So you have to break that team up. So it'll keep parity. But if it continues where teams like this, let's face it, Indiana and Oklahoma City, in the whole NBA family, they've got probably the least amount of fans. So
Right.
the people who are going to be glued to their TV aren't going to be a great deal. Now, the NBA just signed or made a deal for over $7 billion, all the TV contracts a year. And ABC, ESPN, which is the same thing, they're paying $2.6 billion a year. And they're going to get a low-rated possible finals. That that's not good. It's just not a
Yeah.
good situation. And maybe in 4 years, and the contract, I think, as I say, it's 7 years. So maybe in 6, 7 years, the price goes down. But still, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, we got to hope that basketball fans saw game one or heard about game one and maybe they tune in for game two, right? Because if you missed it, it was phenomenal basketball. Phenomenal basketball. And I hope you guys watch
Well,
game two.
look at what the NBA does, by the way. Tonight's game is Sunday. They wouldn't dare put a game on Saturday night because people are not home generally. So they're trying to schedule it so it's nights they're home.
Yeah.
And that's another, I guess, factor or whatever in trying to draw more ratings.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what game two does in terms of ratings. I think it's going to be another good game, which will probably start the same way as game one. We'll just see if Indiana has another magic shot in them. Let's talk about a team that's outside looking in, a team that the NBA would have liked to have been in the finals because they have probably more fans than the Pacers and the Knicks combined. No offense. The New York Knicks. I think I said the Pacers and the Knicks, the Pacers
Yes.
and the Thunder. Yeah, but we're talking about the New York Knicks. Who do you think ends up leading the New York Knicks, who unceremoniously let their coach go? You saw the writing on the wall months ago with Tibbs when they were building the team that really didn't fit his personality. Came to pass. He's gone. Who is going to be the leader, the coach of the Knicks in the 2025-26 NBA season? Who do you think?
Before we go there, let's just explain something to you. If you were going to make a controversial move like firing the coach that got you to the conference finals, you should have had somebody in mind right off the bat.
Yeah,
What the Knicks did, they first talked about Udoka. Houston's not going to let him go.
sure.
Now they're talking about Kid. I know there's no great love, Dallas and the Knicks going back to the Brunson and all the other stuff. So I don't know. Dallas, I don't know how much they love Kid. And I know Kid was disappointed he wasn't about Luka. And
Right.
Kid was never really a big fan of Luka. He got annoyed about his referees and all. But the point being, if the Dallas will not allow him to even get involved in this, where do the Knicks turn? Do they have an idea? Rumor was Chris Finch was, oh, come on, Minnesota's not going to let him go. So where are we going here? What exactly are we doing? And the same thing, and I think about this, the Knicks got away from that dysfunctional label. This
Right.
is as dysfunctional as possible. It reeks of just silliness. And each day something else comes out. Today I read that Dolan, the owner, had meetings with the players with Leon Rose, the general manager, next to him. Dolan asked the questions. So the intimation was like they were trying, Dolan didn't want Tibbs. He didn't like him. Looking. And in fact, one of the players, not been identified, said if he came back, he really didn't want to play for Tibbs. So
Hmm.
evidently, and again, player empowerment, where players are saying what they want and management's doing it. But more importantly, it's just dysfunction. It smells of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And I hate to see it because I thought the Knicks were starting to figure things out. And the last thing I'll say on that, if this was Dolan's doing, Leon Rose has got a decision to make in the next couple months. Does he walk away or not? Because he's the one who put all this together and did a great job.
Yeah. I checked the odds on favorite because you can bet on anything in this day and age. And the odds on favorite, no surprise to me, Denver Nuggets coach. This is a guy who's won it all. By all accounts, he's well liked. I think what went sour for him in Denver was the fact that he didn't get along with the GM, who was also fired at the same time. I'm a Knicks fan. I like that name.
I think if the Knicks get in a position where they get turned down a few more times, they'll go to Malone. But if you really think about it, he's similar to Tibbs in a lot of ways. And his personality grates on people after a while. And that's Tom Thibodeau. So I don't know if that's a great move as much as I think that would be a move where we got to save face and we got to hire somebody with a good reputation. And who else is there? Vogel or Budenholzer? And Budenholzer, I think he's going to be, I don't know if he'll ever coach again as a head coach. And Vogel, I'm sure he's living on a beach, living well in the Lakers right now. You know.
Budenholzer's on the list. He is fourth favorite, but second is an interesting name who I had to admit, I had to look it up. Johnny Bryant. Yeah, Johnny Bryant, associate head coach of the Cavs.
He was with the Knicks. He was with the Knicks he went to the Cavs. That's everybody's favorite to backup quarterback. You always think that what you have on the bench is better than what you have. I mean, sure. I read some Knicks fans saying that why aren't they using Huck Porty, who's a backup center, making like $2 million? Are you serious? So you always like the backup. You always like the backup. And Johnny Bryant and supposedly Johnny Bryant has a good relationship with a lot of Knicks players because he was there 2 years ago. So that's it. But now if the Knicks did that, how bad would they look going a team that they believe is going to could win a championship, hiring a guy with no experience? It's similar, I guess, to what the Celtics did.
Sure. Yeah, and it worked out okay for the Celtics. But yeah, we'll see. Interesting times in New York. But let's keep the focus where it should be. On game 2, that's tonight. We're going to talk about it in game 3 next week. You heard our buzzer go off. We talked over it, what we do. We like to keep it around 15 minutes-ish. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article. We'll link it wherever you are listening or watching this to get more thoughts on the 2024-25 NBA season as the playoffs continue. Join us next week as Steve shares his thoughts as the finals go on. We talked about it, game 2 and 3. We'll be here to talk about it. And of course, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. All that stuff matters, and it means the world to us. Thank you. We'll see you next week on the Shot Clock Pod, the best 15 minutes of NBA random thoughts online anywhere. Thanks, Steve.